Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, glories to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining. So we'll start with Mangalacharana. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate gireham yatkripatamam vande Shri Gurudin taranam paramanandam madhavam. Namo Vishvadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Namati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunavadi Pachachade Shatarane. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much again for joining. So I believe we are going to start with if there's any questions on the 16th chapter, right? We completed the presentation class last week.
Yes, Prabhu.
So this was the divine and demoniac nature, in which Krishna speaks about what makes the distinction between one who is divine and demoniac, and then Krishna ends with his recommendations also. So any thoughts, any realizations, questions on it? So maybe I can start off with a question, which essentially is the summation of the chapter. What is, if there is one thing that Krishna has talked about as being the difference between divine and demoniac, what would that be?
Association with false ego.
Okay, thank you. If you could raise your hand. Anybody else?
I think it was following of scriptures. Scriptures is followed by the divine, and demonic don't follow the scriptures.
Okay, good. Again, if you can raise your hand before answering, that'd be good. Anybody else? Go ahead, Nalini Mataji.
Prabhuji, who hurts others or other living entities, Prabhuji?
Okay, Himsa. Neelmani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think Prabhu, this is like the doer mentality. I am the one who is doing everything. I will kill all my enemies and I will do charity. So thinking that I am the doer.
The aham karta, aham bhogi mentality. Thank you.
Yes,
Parampara Prabhu.
Desire for material sense enjoyment.
Desire for material sense enjoyment. Okay, good. So I think a lot of what you're saying is what Krishna says in the chapter. If we were to take one thing, and that was spoken by, I'm not sure who spoke it now, but it is adherence to scriptures, right? So the distinction that Krishna makes is that one who follows the scripture is divine, and one who does not follow the scripture is demoniac, right? And that kind of sets the stage for the 17th chapter to be spoken. But this distinction is important. Now, any thoughts on why Krishna is basing such a, so divine and demoniac, they're like two ends of the spectrum. Why is Krishna basing this on this particular element of adherence to scriptures? Radhakishore Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Basically, Krishna has mentioned there are three gates of hell, which is lust, anger, and greed. And because we are in the material or conditioned body, these three are very difficult to give up in this world. So the only way to give up is by taking the shelter of scriptures. So, therefore, someone who actually takes the shelter of scriptures is able to break free from the conditioned state, and therefore he is able to give up the demoniac nature and, you know, first of all, appreciate what the divine nature and then adopt the divine nature as a way of life.
Mm, mm, mm. Nice summation. Thank you. Pyali? Oh,
Hare Krishna.
okay.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I did raise my hand and then lowered it. But thank you for the permission to speak. I think Krishna is definitely making the distinction between demoniac and divine, because one is conducive, being divine, having divine qualities is conducive to liberation. And that's the soul's ultimate goal. So, and of course, it's laid out in the scriptures what does the what are the divine qualities. And even in the Bhagavad Gita, characteristics of divine versus demoniac are clearly stated, so that the right choices can be made by the embodied soul to be free from the bodily conception and achieve its real position.
Thank you. Thank you. Good summation. Radhika Bhakti, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvat Pranam, Jai Shila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I think Krishna is like in verse 24, Krishna says why he's saying that we need to follow scriptures is because Shastras is something Shastra does not have the defects what a conditioned soul has, the four defects like imperfect senses, propensity to cheat, and committing mistakes, and another one is being illusion. So Shastras are about these four, and that is why all the sannyasis and acharyas, they follow this without any alteration. That is why.
Very good, very good. Excellent summation. So yes, this is why Krishna is predicating such an important distinction on the scriptures. The scriptures come from Krishna, so they are above all the kinds of defects. The second very good point was made is that if we don't follow the scriptures, what will we follow? We will follow our swabhav. We'll follow our propensity. What is the propensity a result of? They are a result of a particular combination of the modes of material nature. So if we don't follow the scriptures, we will follow material nature. And the nature of the material energy is that it will always take us downwards. It will result in more and more whimsical actions. Yeah. So the 17th chapter will basically pick up from where the 16th has left, because after Krishna makes this point, then the question would be, which in the current day and age is probably more relevant, is that what if I don't even know about the scriptures? Right? So even we who are practicing devotees, we know a very small fraction of the scriptures, right? So and others know even lesser. So that's setting the stage for the 17th chapter. So so thank you for answering the questions. Let me pause before I move on to the 17th chapter presentation. Let me pause and see if there's any new thoughts, questions, or comments on the 16th chapter. Yes, Nilmani Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. So Prabhuji, you said that the not following the scriptures and then obviously if we are not following the scriptures, then we go down. The nature of material nature is it is going down. It is not going upward. So for example, if there's a trace of ignorance in Brahmaloka, and then down planets, there's another obviously bigger trace of ignorance. So once we are in Brahmaloka, then we don't follow. So we have the option of following the scriptures there also.
We always do, because excuse me, because that's something that's coming out for free will. So we always have the choice to act as per the scriptures or act as per our what our mind tells us. The difference in Brahmalok, of course, is that a person or jiva that reaches Brahmalok, they have spent many lifetimes strictly adhering to the scriptures. So they have a lot of practice and a strong propensity to abide by the scriptures. So even if there are fall downs over there, they are temporary, because there is overwhelming support by the person's own training and those around. So we see that in some cases, even exalted personalities like Brahaspati, Lord Brahma, Indra, they have fall downs. Which the point that you were making is that because there are traces of the modes everywhere in the material world, there are traces of the modes. So sometimes the modes might get active, so that there are fall downs, but they also recover from it. For us, because we are here, because we do not have that much of conviction, past practices, past sukriti. So if we have fall downs, they tend to be longer lasting, they tend to be more insidious. So we see more of it. We see more of the divine and demoniac nature in the middle planets than in the upper planets.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That means what I have understood, Prabhuji, from this explanation, this beautiful explanation you have given, is that we should not even let a second pass in this Mrityaloka when we are here without thinking and without following the scriptures. And 100%, as Srila Prabhupada says, let's give this one lifetime to me. We should 100% focus on that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. He does say that.
Yeah.
Okay. If there are no further, Jyoti Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I've seen this infographic where it says that in Satya the good and bad or the good and evil are planets apart, and then in Dwapar Yuga they are sorry, in Treta Yuga they are only like on the same planet, but in Dwapar Yuga they are in the same family. In Kali Yuga they are within the same person. So as the time passes, the war between good and evil is happening within us all the time, where the modes are getting even more active, right? And so the war is happening, and I know that I understand that following scriptures will bring us into some discipline and be able to you know channel our life. I'm just a little bit concerned from the aspect that yes, Kali Yuga allows us to chant and get closer to God easier than the other yugas and everything. But it's I hate to say it this way. Sometimes it's like jante mante nahi. It is easier to for my intellect to know, but more difficult. Um, I don't know if I'm stating this properly. I don't even know what the confusion is in my mind. Can you elaborate a little bit more, please?
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what the confusion is, that in the age of Kali, there is advantages in terms of ease of chanting, but there is also increased danger in terms of the stronger prominence of the lower modes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I think that's a statement of fact that yes, in the age of Kali, the baser modes are stronger, especially for us. Like, the influence of the ages is not so much in Svargalok or Maharlok, Janlok. There is some influence, but the understanding is very minor. The influence of this Chaturyugas, as mentioned, that the um, Treta Yuga people are generally saintly, etc., etc. That's more in the middle planets, more specifically in Karma Bhumi, where we are situated. So like you rightly said, it creates a situation of stress, and the compensating part is that there is also benedictions. Right? So towards the end of the Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto, in the last chapter, when Sukdev Goswami is summarizing everything to Parikshit Maharaj, and he says this. He says like Kalera dosha nidhe rajan astya eka mahaguna kirtana deva krishnasya mukta sangha param rajet. So Kalera dosha nidhe rajan. He says this age of Kali is an ocean of doshas, faults. Then astya ek mahaguna. But there is one great redeeming fact. Kirtana deva krishnasya. That by chanting of Krishna's name, mukta sangha param rajet. Two things will happen. Mukta Sang means that you will free yourself of this contaminating association. And Param Rajat means that you will go back to God. So like sometimes in schools we see, I don't think it happens much now, but I know when I was growing up, they were more blatant about segregating students based on their academic achievements. So they would actually have sections A, B, C, D, and people in A were all 75% up, and people in B were whatever 60% up, and they would have sections all the way till F and G. So by the time we went to F and G, then you knew the students were very, very weak. But the interesting thing is that there's always there would be always students who would be coming first, second, third over there, even though they were in weaker sections. The teachers were a lot more considerate over there. They knew this was section of weaker students. They would go easy on them. They would encourage them a lot more. And at the end of the day, the student who stood first. He would get the same medal, that first in class medal. So to some extent, that's what Kali Yuga is. That because of our past activities, we have taken birth in Kali Yuga, and by nature we are more attracted to the modes. But then we also have this concession that Kirtana Deva Krishnasya. Eva means only. Just by chanting, no need to do austerities, no need to study the scriptures, no need to become a Paka Brahman. Just by Kirtana Deva Krishnasya Mukta Sana Param Prachet. So I'm essentially elaborating on the point. Well, you presented it succinctly. I'm kind of elaborating on it, and thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so there are no further questions. Then let me share my presentation on the 17th chapter.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, we have the group presentations on chapter 16, 3 presentations.
Oh, we have, sorry. Did not remember that. So we can start with the group presentations.
Yeah, I think group 1 can start.
Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna devotees. Please accept my respect for my messages. I go to Guru Maharaj and Sri Prabhupada. So, the topic is summarize the divine qualities by Varna and Ashrama.
Sorry, I don't know if it's just me, but the voice is not very clear.
For me also, bro.
It's not clear for me also.
Okay. Today's topic is summarize the divine qualities by Varna and Ashrama. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, from verse 1 to 3. Is it audible, Prabhuji, now? Or
Yes, it's good, bro.
Yes, Prabhu.
so there are two characters in this, and then the theme setting will be discussing here as well. So Aryan is a younger brother who attends Udga, an annual mega youth fest at Delhi University, eager to share insights, and Ravi, who is an older brother, married, practical minded, curious about somewhat skeptical. The theme setting is Aryan. Aryan is at the host from the fest, carrying Bhagavad Gita. Ravi is relaxing with tea and garden work. Aryan, how was the Udgar festival?
It was amazing, brother. In one of the sessions, the devotees spoke about the divine qualities which Krishna talks in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, and how they relate to Varna and Ashrama.
Divine qualities? That sounds heavy. Isn't that stuff for monks and scholars?
Not at all. It is meant for everyone. Krishna explains how qualities differ based on your roles, Varna, and stages of life, Ashrama. It's so practical.
All right, Mr. Scholar, teach me something. I'm a grostha, a married man. What does Krishna say about my role?
Grihasthas are very important. Krishna says you have three key qualities: charity, dhanam, control of mind, dhamma, and sacrifice, yajna.
Charity? Oh, I already pay my taxes. Does that count?
Taxes don't count. Grihasthas are the only ones who can earn. So you're meant to support the other ashramas, brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis through charity.
Fair enough. What about controlling the mind?
That's important because grihasthas are allowed to enjoy life within boundaries. Sense control ensures you don't go overboard. And sacrifice, yajna, means offering your actions to Krishna, whether it's family responsibilities or work.
Makes sense. What about the other ashramas?
Brahmacharis focus on one thing: study of the Vedic scriptures, Swadhyaya. Vanaprasthas practice austerity, tapa, preparing for renunciation. And sannyasi embody fearlessness, abhayam, purity, sattva samshuddhi, and spiritual knowledge, jnana.
Okay. That's a lot to live up to. What about Varna? How does that work?
Varna is based on qualities and actions. For example, Brahmanas have 12 qualities. For example, simplicity, truthfulness, non-violence, and humility. Kshatriyas need vigor, forgiveness, and determination. Vaishyas value cleanliness and freedom from envy. And Shudras excel by being humble and following guidance without expecting honor.
So, sounds like you have memorized the whole Gita. What's the point of all this?
The point is to align our lives with Krishna's teachings. By following these qualities, we grow up spiritually and contribute to society. It's not about forcing change, but progressing step by step.
We have learned a lot, little brother. Maybe I'll dust off my Bhagavad Gita and read a verse or two tonight.
That's a great start, Bhaiya. Krishna says even a little progress on this path protects us from fear.
Fearlessness. Oh, I could use some of that. All right, let's have dinner. You can keep sharing these divine qualities for some roti and sabji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, I think you brought all the important points in the conversation. I also like the subtle humor. Well done. We can move to group 2 now.
Raghunath Prabhuji, can you please share the screen?
I am, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna devotees. So this is a presentation for group 2 on chapter 16 Bhagavad Gita, and we are summarizing the demoniac qualities and where would it lead you. Next slide, please. So demoniac qualities, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 16.4 talks about 6 of the characteristics, qualities: pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. Verse 4 to verse 20 of Bhagavad Gita is focused on demoniac nature. So majority of this chapter in 16 is on demoniac qualities. Next slide, please. So what is a demoniac belief? So the demons, they do not believe in God. They do not believe in Vedic scriptures, or most importantly, law of karma. Do not believe in varna ashrama dharma. So what do they believe? They believe the cosmic manifestation happened by chance, and sense enjoyment is the only goal of life. And they believe that anything happens is because of accident and one's own endeavor or prowess. And they believe spirit comes from matter and sees no difference between them. Next slide, please. So based on the beliefs, these are the activities of demoniac mentality. So they have no desire to know Vedic scriptures and law of karma. Even if they know Vedic scriptures, they do not desire to follow them, or they act whimsically. Demons do not have knowledge of Krishna or God. They declare themselves as God. They declare others as God, compete with other gods for resources, sense enjoyment, and declare oneself as the one God. So they do not have clear understanding of God. They demand respect, although they do not command respect. And since they do not believe on scriptures, they engage in sinful activities like meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. Now, demons and demigods, they are both born out of the same family lineage, that is Prajapatis. But the only difference is that demigods believe, or they adhere to the scriptures, while demons do not believe to the scriptures. Next slide, please. So what is the root cause of these demoniac beliefs and activities? It's the attachment to the modes of passion and ignorance, and acting under the modes to satisfy one's lust, anger, and greed. So lust, when it's fulfilled, makes one more greedy and desire for more sense enjoyment. since enjoyment by nature is like it can never be completely satisfied, and lust when unfulfilled makes one angry and keeps engaging or trying on and leading to sinful activities just to fulfill their lusty desires. Next slide, please. Now, the result of demoniac behavior is like gateway to hell. So hellish planets is their destination. 7 planets below the earth. There's Atala, Bitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patal, and also hellish life forms. Humans being demoted to animals, birds, insects, trees, and other lower life form. Now, demons, they are envious of God, so they are not allowed to come in contact with Krishna. However, Krishna being merciful, Krishna, is mercy manifest to demons in 2 ways: allow them to suffer karmically so that they can come to proper scriptural understanding and elevate in the yogic ladder. Or Krishna, if the demons is exceptionally powerful, Krishna sometimes has to personally intervene and kill the demon so that they can be liberated. Next slide, please. So what is there for us? Lessons as a practicing devotee. So do not act whimsically or learn scripture just for knowing purpose only and not practicing sincerely. And also do not perform sinful activities by acting outside the scope of one's own varna ashrama. So for ashram like brahmachari, like the responsibility is to study scripture. So not studying scriptures will be considered not a good activity. Same thing with grihastha, not giving charity, vanaprastha, not living an austere life, and sannyasa, not preaching fearlessly and relying on so-called followers for just maintenance instead of Krishna. The conclusion, next slide, please. The conclusion is that demonic qualities arise from attachment to modes of passion and ignorance, which leads to lust, anger, greed. Demoniac activities demotes ones to hellish planets, hellish life forms. And as a practicing devotee, we should recognize these demoniac qualities on ourselves and purify our heart by following scriptures and performing Krishna Bhakti. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Well presented and well summarized. Just one small point of correction, Prabhu, that you mentioned that the 7 planets, the Atal, Vital, Rasatal, Patal, so they are not considered as hellish planets. They're considered as lower planets. There are 28 hellish planets that actually are below these planets. So in these the 7 lower planets, actually the ability to enjoy is a lot more than even in the heavenly planets. So they live a very opulent life there, but they're considered as demoniac because they're envious to Krishna. But they have they get there because they have strong piety. Only they're envious to Krishna. But hellish planets is those who committed sins, and that's the description that comes in the last chapter of the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, the different planets for different sins like meat eating, intoxication. So there are 28 different planets described there.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu, for the clarification. So, Prabhu, can I ask one question to the follow-up?
Yeah,
so
sure.
when you say lower planets and hellish planets, they are different. So lower planets, can they have more heavenly opulence than the higher planetary system as well?
They do. They do. Because their focus on enjoyment is stronger over there. And the ability to enjoy is stronger there also.
And if so, then like we sometimes hear like Indra committing very sinful activities for sense enjoyment by coming to this planetary system. Now, so that makes me wonder, like the demons by nature, like what are they looking in the heavenly planets? Because like you said, if heavenly planets has less of opulence, why are they trying to acquire or go towards the heavenly planets, like the higher planets?
It's mostly driven by envy, because it's like if you have a kingdom and then there's a kingdom next to yours, it doesn't matter if it is better or worse than you. There are kings who will want to conquer it, increase their So you see personalities who wanted to expand. So they're all driven by envy or pride. I want to be the ruler of the three worlds. I want to expand my dominion all the way from Amravati to Patalok. So it's just that strong sense of material accomplishment.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for the clarification. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Good presentation.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah, so for group 3, basically we need to present significance of chapter 16 and why Krishna speaks about divine and demonic qualities. So first, I'll start by the significance of the significance of chapter 16. This chapter, it serves as a tool for the self-reflection, allowing individual to assess their own actions and motivate to identify which path they are following. And also consequences of choice. Krishna explains that choosing the demonic path leads to suffering, rebirth in lower forms, and further entanglement in the material world, while the divine path leads to liberation and spiritual progress. And also this chapter particularly criticizes extreme materialism, highlighting how excessive pursuit of wealth and sense gratification can be considered a demonic quality. In Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come to the stage of purification. The whole method is based on giving up lust, greed, and anger. There are different rules and regulations for different castes and division of society, and if a person is able to follow them, he will be automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Then he can have liberation without a doubt. So this is the summary of like significance of the chapter 16. And now I will first at the after going through a few slides at the end, I'm going to summarize why is Krishna talking about these two qualities. So if you see the divine qualities, right, it is said to elevate us, whereas the demonic qualities, it actually it pushes us to degradation. And these are the results of nature and nurture, how we nurture our nature. And why do we have our nature? The nature is because of all the impressions from all the previous lives. But is there any hope? Yes, we can change the nature. How? By having willpower, determination, and activities in this life, we can significantly alter this nature. And also Krishna wants us here by staying protected from these 3 gates which leads to the hell, that is lust, anger, and greed. We need to give up this. We need to give up these qualities, and if not, we will lead these qualities will lead to the hellish planets. But here another important thing to note is hellish planets, but these are not these are not like eternal prisons. We need to look at this as a reformatory place for a soul. And also we just other 2 groups also talked about how unfulfilled lust leads to anger, and when the lust is fulfilled, it is lead to the greed. And when with the too much of greed, there is illusion, and with illusion comes pride, and with all 5 of these, it will lead to envy. So, and here Krishna is saying here that how can we stay safe now? How can we escape from these 3 gates? By taking the help of scriptures. Scriptures act as a guidebook, and they are for the gradual purification and ultimate perfection. And also we all have choice, right? Everybody has choice. Here in verse 22 and 23, Krishna is saying, if you follow the scripture, what happens? If you don't follow the scripture, what happens? So if you follow the scriptures, you escape these gates and attain the supreme destination. Now, what is the supreme destination? It is you will not be coming back here again. You will be in the Goloka. That's the supreme destination. And if we reject the scriptures and act however I want whimsically, then we suffer and we end up in miserable stage, and which leads to our degradation. And scriptures recommend regulated lifestyle, by which what happens if we follow is like the selfishness will be transformed to selflessness, lust will be transformed to love, and quarrel will be transformed to cooperation. And in the last verse, Krishna says, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulation of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that they may gradually be elevated. Now, to summarize quickly, like why does Krishna is talking about the divine and demonic qualities? The first one is by Krishna talking about all this quality, we can evaluate ourselves and we know what qualities we have, either divine or demonic. And then by understanding what each qualities, what results it gives, so we can take the right decision and right decision and right choices in our life. And third one is how, and Krishna is not just explaining the qualities, Krishna is also saying like how can we protect, what should we protect against? We should protect against those three gates which will lead to hell. And he's also giving a solution. How do we protect it? By following the scriptures. And by following the scriptures and understanding uh, and hearing the scriptures properly, like Tadviti Pranapatena, if we follow that way, if we read the scriptures and understand under a bona fide parampara and with the help of a guru, then what happens is then we will know, we will get intelligence, and then we know what is our duty and what is not our duty, and then we know how to act with our intelligence. So thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Excellent presentation. I also really liked your aesthetics and graphics, and the fact that you summarized the 2 points very nicely, that why does Krishna speak about it? One is so that we know. So if you remember in the 5th verse, Krishna shows Arjun, don't worry, you have divine qualities. So that's an indication that Krishna wants us to see where we are. And of course, after evaluation comes correction. So Krishna gives us the avenue to correct ourselves. And then the second big thing is that he is giving us a sneak preview into our destinations. We lead a divine life, and this is destination A. We lead a demoniac life. This is the consequence. This is the destination, and there's a way to change it, and this is the way. So I think you covered the chapter very well. Thank you so much. Okay, so we will now start on our summation of the 17th chapter. So the 17th chapter title is Divisions of Faith. So as we have just seen, that the 16th chapter kind of hinged around those following scriptures or those not following scriptures. So now Arjun will inquire that there are those who follow the rules of the scriptures, but not the scriptures. So there are people who, because of whatever reasons, because of their own natural propensity, because of influence of family, surrounding, they follow the rules, but they happen to be in the scripture also, but not so, because they're not following the scriptures. They're following some of the rules of the scriptures. So they're kind of in between, right? So Arjun is curious about that. And the 17th chapter answers this. So the bulk of the chapter is talking about the impact of the modes of material nature, right? And that essentially, so this is a spoiler alert, that essentially is Krishna's answer about those who follow some rules but not the scriptures. Because they follow according to the modes. And then the last 6 verses, Krishna gives us the key to transcend the modes. Okay, so summarizing Arjun's question. So these are the Vedas. There are those who follow and there are those who do not follow, right? So Krishna has said that those who follow are divine and those who do not follow are demoniac. Right. Now, third category of people who follow but do not follow the scriptures. Right. So they follow whimsical rules not mentioned in the scriptures. So qualifying this a little bit. So it may be mentioned in the Vedas, but when I say not mentioned in the Vedas, is that they take portions of the Vedas and follow it, but they follow it not because it is mentioned in the Vedas, but they follow it because of whatever reasons, right? And that's where Krishna says they follow it because of the modes. So Arjun's question is, are they divine or demoniac, right? And Krishna will answer that in the rest of the chapter. So why do people do this? Why do people follow but do not follow? So various reasons are there. One is that they don't know the scriptures. So what they don't know, they don't know. The scriptures say that Grasta should give charity, but they don't know that the scriptures are saying that, but they still are charitable, right? So they lack the knowledge of the scriptures. They may know the scriptures, but they have weak faith or no faith in the scriptures, right? And they may be averse to the scriptures, right? So first is innocent, the second is questioning, and the third is openly antagonistic. So because of these three reasons, either they don't know the scriptures, or they don't have sufficient faith in it, or they reject the scriptures. They will follow this path of whimsically selecting and rejecting the scriptures. So what is the destination of those who do not worship the scriptures but worship according to their imagination, right? So the summation of Krishna will expand on this later on, but basically the point he's saying is that if one does not follow the scriptures, one follows their own nature. And the nature is a product of the conditioning by the modes, right? So then after establishing this, Krishna will now talk about the various manifestations of this behavior. So he takes examples and shows what happens when people act according to the modes. So first Krishna talks about faith, because faith is the most important aspect of one making spiritual advancement, right? And the common theme is, how does this manifest based on the modes, right? So if you look at the big picture, one line has been drawn between those who follow the scriptures and do not follow the scriptures. So now Krishna is only speaking about those who do not follow the scriptures. If they're not following the scriptures, they're acting according to their modes. And what Krishna is saying is that based on the modes, what are the kinds of activities that they will perform in various aspects of their existence. Now, interestingly is that even though this category is not following scriptures, Krishna will still speak about the scriptures, especially for those in the mode of goodness, right? And we'll discuss this when it comes. So faith, those who are in the mode of goodness, they worship the demigods. In the mode of passion, they will worship the demons. And in the mode of ignorance, they will worship ghosts and spirits. Right? So in the last presentation for the 16th chapter, we saw that Krishna wants us to understand ourselves based on our behavior or propensity, and also understand others. So this is one thing that is continuing in this chapter. That when we see somebody worshipping demigods, then we know that they're in the mode of goodness. If we see somebody doing black magic, going to crematorium, we know that they are in the mode of ignorance. Or if we see ourselves doing this, we know which mode our faith lies in. So how to determine which mode? Based on the manifested behavior, because modes are subtle. So difficult for a person to say, I'm in this mode. Even we who know ourselves the best, we can't say which mode we are. What to speak of others? So this is what Krishna is essentially giving us in the 17th and the first half of 18th, that based on the manifested behaviors, you can deduce the modes of the person. Now, other behaviors. What one eats. So in Sattvic, the food is vegetarian, juicy, fatty, wholesome. It increases the duration of life. Rajasic is excessively bitter, sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning. And Tamasic is stale, tasteless, putrid, decomposing, remnants of untouchable things like animal flesh, etc. What kinds of sacrifices does the person do in the three modes? So in Sattvic, they do it according to the directions of the scriptures. So this is where I was mentioning that even though this category is about people who do not follow the scriptures, but then Krishna says that in Satogun, they act according to the directions of the scriptures. So what the acharyas explain is that when Krishna is making statements like this, so remember what we said is that people act whimsically, which means that sometimes they may follow the scriptures and sometimes they may not. So for a person to perform yajna in Satogun, the only way to do it is that they follow the scriptures. Right? So at least the performance of the yajna is according to the directions of the scriptures. In other areas, they may be Rajo or Tama or Sattva, but for yajna, the only way for them to be Sattvic is by following the direction of scriptures as a matter of duty, desiring no rewards. The other point Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur makes here also is that if one engages a person in the mode of goodness to perform the sacrifices, then that also is counted as yajna in the mode of goodness. Now, Rajas is performed for some material benefit, that may I become wealthy, may I have a child, or for the sake of pride. And Tamas is the opposite of these two, no regard of the scriptures, no distribution of prasadam. Prasadam distribution is very important. Then no chanting of Vedic hymns, no remuneration to the priest, right? So this is also very important, that one must satisfy the priest with sweet words, respect, and gifts, and sacrifices are performed without faith. Then Krishna talks about three kinds of austerities, that austerity of body, austerity of speech, and austerity of mind. So what is the austerity of body? It's worship of the Lord, the Brahmins, the superiors, being clean, simple, following celibacy and non-violence. Austerity of speech is being truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to the others, reciting the Vedas. And austerity of the mind is satisfaction, gravity, self-control, and purification. Now, these three austerities are also in the three modes, Sato, Tamo, and Rajo. So, when performed in the mode of goodness, they are performed with faith. And very similar to what we saw as yajna in the mode of goodness. So once again, the same explanation. So austerities that are in the mode of goodness are by nature according to the scriptures. Otherwise, they are not austerities in the mode of goodness. Then Rajas is a performer out of pride for gaining honor, respect, and worshipping. May I become a king? May I rule the world? And in the mode of tamas is some people, we see they perform austerities so that they can curse others, or they can harm others, or they harm their own body. Right? So these, especially the Rakshasas, they perform these self-immolation. So this is all austerities in the mode of ignorance. And Krishna speaks about charity in the three modes. So in the mode of goodness, without duty, without expectation of a result, and to a worthy person at a proper time. Right? So the biggest thing in austerity is that one should not expect any results out of it. So one should not expect that they should be glorified, etc. So in the mode of passion, it is in a grudging mood, and there's an expectation of return, that the person should speak words to glorify me, or my name should be printed and put over these places. And tamas is impure place, impure time, unworthy person, without proper attention and respect. Right? So give money, somebody go and drink alcohol, or go and take drugs, or give it in anger or hatred. So this is austerity in the mode of ignorance. So one theme that we saw, that even though Krishna was speaking about people who do not follow the scriptures, whenever he spoke about the mode of goodness, he reintroduced the scriptures. Right? So the point that he makes is that Satogun requires adherence to the scriptures. And those who act whimsically will eventually glide down. Right? So this is one very important point between those who adhere to the scriptures and those who do not. So even if a person is in the mode of ignorance but is following the scriptures, then that person will gradually get elevated. And even if a person is in the mode of goodness and is not fully following the scriptures, the person will eventually glide down. And the understanding is that if you don't follow the scriptures, you will follow your mind, and the mind will always take you down. But the scriptures will always take you up. So irrespective of where you engage with the scriptures, goodness, passion, ignorance, they will always elevate you. And if you're on your own, irrespective from where you start, you may start at a very exalted mode of goodness, you will always glide down. The second point is that when you follow the scriptures, you also attract the mercy of Krishna, because the scriptures are the representative of Krishna, which is why that elevation happens, because the mercy of the Lord is coming through the scriptures. If you do not follow the scriptures, then that mercy is missing. So you're left on your own to fight with Krishna's external energy, and Maya Devi will always defeat you. Right? So Krishna also says that to see in ourselves and in others. Right? So if we want to improve ourselves, we say, where are we now? What kind of charity do we give? What's the nature of faith? What kind of austerities we perform? And then we can move up from there. And the powerful effect of the modes, right? Even if a person is elevated, the modes will pull them down, right? And whether we like it or not, we are bound by the modes. People who say that I do not want to follow the scriptures because I don't want to be bound by other people's instructions, they are essentially trading a benevolent master for a malicious master. And yes, the scriptures are prescriptive, but if you don't follow the scriptures, you follow the modes of material nature, and they are much more malevolent compared to the scriptures. And typically, the modes will bind because they will act in combination. One may perform austerity in the mode of passion, one may give charity in the mode of goodness, one may perform penances or one may eat food in the mode of ignorance. So in this way, the modes will combine and intertwine and bind oneself to the material world. So how to transcend the modes, right? So this is the famous Om Tat Sat part of the chapter, that anything that one does with faith, any food that one eats, any sacrifice that one performs, any austerity, any charity, so everything that one does, right? One's faith, one's food, one's sacrifice, one's austerity, one's charity, and these are all the points that Krishna has covered. They are binding, right? So this is the summation of what Krishna has spoken so far. So now the question is that how is one who is bound by the modes can break oneself from the modes and get liberated, right? So let's assume we follow Krishna's logic, we accept that yes, we are bound by the modes, but we also have a desire to get liberated by the modes. We have acknowledged that all the austerity, faith, food, charity, it's one of the modes. We also acknowledge that these modes are binding. But we say, Krishna, don't leave us over here. Tell us how to get out of it. Right? And we want to go back to Krishna. So the answer Krishna says is Om Tat Sat. Right? So Om Tat Sat essentially is nothing but a sound representation of Krishna. So another way of saying is that by practicing devotional service, one gets liberated from the modes. And so he explains a little bit more about Om. Om is the Shabda Brahman, or the sound representation of Krishna. Tat is to perform the prescribed Vedic activities for the Supreme Lord out of devotion. And Sat is the result of the performing the prescribed activities with detachment and for the pleasure of the Lord. So in a way, Om Tat Sat are all synonyms, but in a way, they also complete the definition of Lord. So whenever Om is recited, it indicates that we are not referring to anything material, we are referring to something that is transcendental to material. So the Vedic mantras, they begin with Om, which means that the sound vibration that comes is not of the material world, but of the spiritual world. Right? When we say Tat, then we are essentially linking whatever we do to the Om. And the Sat is essentially offering that results to the Lord. Sat also means eternal. So by nature, that which is spiritual is eternal. So if you were to summarize what Om Tat Sat is, it is understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you put it in the context of the point Krishna made earlier on, it is understanding that the only way to break from the modes is by offering it to the Supreme Lord. So perform all activities for his pleasure, achieve perfection by returning back to Godhead. And Prabhupada says that Om Tat Sat is contained in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So summarizing, that Arjuna understands that to act as per the scriptures is divine and whimsically is demoniac. And the vast majority of the people, they act whimsically, but they may not be sinful. So Krishna explains that those who do not act as per the scriptural injunction will act according to the confluence of the modes, right? And anything that is performed under material conditioning will have material results which are temporary. So the best course is to understand Krishna from the scriptures and act for his pleasure only. And in this way, one achieves Om Tat Sat or perfection. Srila Prabhupada would often end his letters with Om Tat Sat. Bhakti Siddhanta also would do that. He would basically say this, and in the end he would say Om Tat Sat. There's one way to remind himself and others also that everything is for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the 17th chapter. And let me stop the share. Stop share. Yeah. Okay. So little over time. Apology for that. So next week we will do the 18th chapter. I have yet to upload the lectures. I hope to do it over the weekend. Big chapter, 78 verses. I also am traveling to India on Sunday, but I will be, hopefully I should be able to continue with the classes over there. But I will also be traveling. So while I'll try my best to maintain the continuity, there may be times when I'll not be able to make it, but I'll give you sufficient heads up there. Okay, so we'll end over here.
Prabhuji, one question. Chapter 18 will be, Prabhuji, 2 classes, considering it's a big chapter, or you think it's 1 class?
We could do 2 classes.
Okay. Just asking from a timing with the exam perspective, because when the module ends, then we'll start the exam 1 month that in.
It's a long chapter, but if you notice that most of the verses have no purports.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but we could do 2. We could do 2 classes. Okay, so we'll end over here. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anand Kori Vaishnavanda ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Pranam, Prabhuji. So much for the
Hare
wonderful
Krishna
class.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.